Hey, welcome to another demonstration for the Unitrends System Administration course. In this how-to video tutorial, we're going to look at basic configuration of a Unitrends appliance. Now remember, in our fundamentals course and in the course module for this system configuration, we're talking about physical and virtual servers, and we learned that on the back end, the software, the engine, everything it's running is really similar. I just want to show you the basics of VMware and Hyper-V and how to get into the edit settings and how to modify processor, memory, storage. We're going to show you that really quickly. Then we'll go into looking at the appliances themselves. When you think about the back end of VMware and Hyper-V, once again, you do have to have access to those commands, those consoles. So I'm going to type in my password and my usernames real quick for these. I'll launch into VMware first, and while that's loading up, I'll go ahead and type in my password for Hyper-V. So here you can see on the back end of my VMware environment, under my No Backups group, I've got my local UEB appliance, my local backup appliance. Now I can edit the settings of this machine, and when it's powered up, I can't modify the memory or processor here. But if you shut the appliance down properly while it doesn't have power going to the machine, you can up the processor and memory. Once again, follow the rules of thumb from the module inside of the system configuration module here. You can also do things like add additional drives on the back end. You don't have to go through some install wizard anywhere. You just come back here, modify the settings, and add a new disk, whether it's a SCSI hard drive or it's a hard drive through the virtual machine here. You're going to create that new virtual disk, however you're going to do that process. Through the installer, we've created a 650 gig drive. And that's really what I want to show you here is how did I get this appliance in here? What is that installer like? We also added a network card in here. Right? It created a network card for us. So we're going to show you how we did that and how we configure that appliance and how this comes in here. So you learn in the fundamentals that you can download from the Unitrends website. You can download from the Unitrends website when you fill out the Unitrends form from unitrends.com. You can fill out the form to request a free trial of our Unitrends backup solution. Now, in this form here, when you fill it out, it's going to give you links to download either Hyper-V, VMware, or the UB installable for Linux. Okay, I've already done that. My installables are out here. I keep them out on an applications NAS volume under Unitrends. Here's my VMware and my Hyper-V installers. To install a VMware or Hyper-V appliance, they're really similar. We're going to take that installer. I've got it downloaded right here to my C drive on my workstation as well too. Here's the actual installer we're going to run. Okay, when I run this installer, the first thing it's going to prompt me to do is ask me for my virtual environment, whether it's Hyper-V or VMware. Now Hyper-V, you run it from the host you want to deploy it to. In VMware, you launch it from any Windows machine, and it asks you for the IP address of either your host or to vCenter. I'm going to use that same username and password I used a little bit earlier. All right, whatever credentials you have through vCenter to get to vCenter or to get to this host directly, that's the account that you want to authenticate through. All right, once again, follow the instructions inside of the module for the VMware environment. Also, I can specify the name of my appliance. This is where I typed in local_UEB. Now, I can't have the same appliance name twice, so I have to give this a unique name. You can choose the host. If I was tied to vCenter, I would see a list of all my hosts. You choose a host, and then you can see the storage off of that host. From here, I can choose the network configuration. This is all brand new in the new installer. I love it. From here, I can set the IP address. I can even set the primary DNS from inside of the installer. Next in the configuration installer, it's asking us about our storage. If I want to add a new virtual disk to use as backup storage, it does it right through the installer. That's how we get in here our extra 650 gigs here as our extra disk. You can configure this hard disk too as big as you want right from the start. All right, very easy to set these things up right from the installer. All right, so I would set that to, usually terabytes, 1, 2, 10, 15, 20 terabytes. And you can switch this over to terabytes as well too. All right, we just don't have that much storage. Plus, I also have my appliance deployed, so I'm not going to go ahead and install this. That is the same appliance, the same process I went through when I deployed my appliance here, calling it local UEB. I gave it 650 gigs. I configured it for the private network, and it's powered up. Before I powered it up, I did give it more CPU and more memory. The default CPU and memory for a default deployed appliance, if you do not modify it, is 2 CPUs and 4 gigs of memory. That's it. Once again, check that rule of thumb in the module for how to give processor and memory to your UEB. But both of these appliances are up and running. I also have that appliance running here as my target. This is the local. I gave it 100.99. This is my local source. This is 100.199. This is my target that has been deployed into Hyper-V. Same kind of similar back end. I can manage my virtual guest here on Hyper-V. I've got a target underscore UEB running in here. It's got a little bit more processor, a little bit more memory, not quite as much as storage. If I inspect the SCSI drive down here, it's only got 300 gigs. It's not going to do quite the work as my local source. It does have 3 CPUs and 6 gigs of memory. I did have to shut this machine down to give it more processor and memory once again. Go through the proper shutdown process or give it more CPU and more memory before you power it up. If it's already running, you have to shut it down properly, give it more processor memory if needed. Okay, but those appliances are both running. I really don't need to view anything in my virtual environments. I can leave both of those minimized, and I can start logging into these appliances. That's my local source. This is my target. 2 separate appliances. They're going to do 2 separate things. So now that we've got our appliances up, the very first time you go to your appliance, it's going to run through a mini wizard that does really 2 basic things. The first thing is that it prompts you to set your date and time server, so that way your appliances are synchronized with all of your servers in your local network from hopefully the same time server that they're all using. So it prompts you to set that, and then it also prompts you to configure your email, SMTP server settings, and the recipients you want to use for the 3 major reports, the 3 types of reports we set up. Now, I could have installed a brand new appliance and showed you those little mini wizards and walked you through them, but they're so easy to use that I don't want to waste time showing you how to use a really simple wizard. What I want to show you how to do is just on the back end of it, once you get into your system, if you ever need to modify those in the future, I want to make sure you know where those settings are at. So we're going to run through once again how to set up the network, where's the network configured, where's my storage at, what's going on in here once I'm inside of this interface. So one of the first things you'll notice up here is the very first time you log in too, by the way, it's going to run you through a product tour. That product tour is really cool to kind of go through. If you're not familiar with our interface, you've never been through it before, you may want to go ahead and take the real quick tour down here. It walks you through all the major highlights within our interface, where the global menu is, how to reset your root account, your user account, whoever you're logged in as, some configuration options, some help, and your alerts. You're really going to want to pay attention to the alerts up top. Then it'll also walk you through the dashboard tiles, reconfiguring the tiles. You can move these things around and customize them. I've got mine tied in the community out here, so I can edit stuff as well too. I really like these tiles a lot. It'll walk you through the different tiles, like the backup summary at the top. You'll start to see as you go through these modules and we get used to this little lab we're going to use to demonstrate for you. You'll see those numbers start to change. Right now we don't have any assets registered, nothing scheduled, no jobs are running, so they're all zeros right now as well too. You've got storage summary right now, very minimal storage here on our target, nothing going on here on our target as well. We're not really using anything yet. No assets are being replicated here or backed up here. Nothing's registered once again. So, just a really kind of cool little tour that you can use. And it'll go down through our main menu as well over here to the left. And then it points out the toolbars at the top of these pages as well too. The inventory section, which is really cool. You'll see a list of all your registered assets once we start to register those. And then there's the main status table. So once we start to really get data in here, it'll really make a little bit more sense. But it's really easy to kind of walk through that dashboard and go through each of these sections and really tell what's different inside of here. Starting with our appliance configuration, I want to show you that we got it on the network, first of all, through the installer. We could also do it through the console on the back end if you need to modify the IP address, or once again, if you have a physical appliance, you may need to look at the KVM or the console for this machine, and you may need to go through network options number 1 here and modify the network adapter settings for these physical appliances on the backside of a KVM. It looks really similar. But there is a console back here that does run. You can use Alt F1 and Alt F2 to toggle back and forth here. Alt F1 and Alt F2, and I can log in. I'm inside of my Unitrends console right now. I can run any kind of different commands. All right. There's also a DPU command you can run back here for various things you can do at the command level. I really don't recommend this, but just to be aware, there is like DPU version. There's DPU asset you might use as well. If you ever can't get into your web browser for some reason, you need your asset tag. This one's really valuable. But this is full access to the console. Be aware, though, that if I hit Alt F1 again, it goes back to this console. If I hit Alt F2 back, I'm still logged in. Make sure you don't leave that running. Don't leave it logged in, running services back there, doing anything crazy back there, and forget about it. Right, make sure you're logged out there before you go back to your menu. That works the same way for Hyper-V, works the same for physical servers. You can toggle to a console and back and forth between Alt F1 and Alt F2. We've got our network configured here, and if I go over to the network tab, well, I first want to show you once again, I'm dropped down to the configuration tab over here on the left-hand side. And I'm under the appliances tab at the top in the main stage. I've got my local source UEB highlighted here. I can see its IP address. I like it because I can see the version in here. I can see a mini storage summary. And I can see the number of registered assets right now. Currently, I'm at 0. Nice little summary. I can see the storage summary down here because that's the tab I'm down here at the bottom. This is a more detailed type of storage, so I can see it's more internal storage now attached directly. I can see a breakdown of the summary of the storage. Same thing here once again. But then I've got a kind of a written summary here of free and the total as well at the bottom. That's once again our storage at the bottom. I've got the ability to add different storage as well too. Once again, if I want to add attached storage here, I first have to go back to VMware on the back end and add storage. There is no storage right now for it to add. Once again, you have to go back to your VMware side here and edit the settings of this VM, and I would have to add a new disk for that to show up inside of Unitrends. I would go through this process first. Okay, you can always add more storage to the back end of a Unitrends appliance. You can edit storage as well too. From inside of here, you can set your instant recovery storage allocation. I'm at 20%, which is about 130 gigs. You can see it's just under about a third, maybe a quarter of that storage. So I'm still leaving a lot of room for backups. With inline deduplication, compression, we're going to see what we get out of this box. Right? You can add storage to this existing storage pool as well. Remember, if I go in and add new storage, I'm adding a different storage pool. If I want to expand an existing, I have to go in and edit that existing. I'll see new storage that I've added, and I can add that storage to this existing pool. It is our recommendation to always remember to expand the existing on a lot of those cases from the configuration module. Next tab down here is backup copy targets. We're going to learn about those in those other modules. This is where you manage those, whether it be a Unitrends appliance for hot target or going out to the cloud or attach storage or disk for cold storage. You can also manage the network from down here. Once again, you may have a physical appliance with multiple network adapters. Virtual appliances, you can add additional virtual network adapters as well too. You can manage these once they're in the virtual appliance or attached to the physical servers. You can manage those network adapters from inside of this interface as well. All right, pretty easy to edit these settings. All right, once again, that's the same for this off-site target appliance. One of the only differences you'll find out here is when we set up backup copy jobs later on for the hot target here, we're going to enable this off-site appliance to be our backup copy target. That's going to basically change the personality of this appliance over to be my hot backup copy target. Setting date and time. Once again, at each appliance level in here, when you notice the appliances, you'll notice the edit button here to edit settings for these appliances. Storage and backup copy targets and network, those are all modified down here for each appliance down at the bottom. If I had multi-appliance management going on, remote management for more than one appliance, I'd see multiple appliances in here. Whichever one I'm highlighted on, that's the one I'm modifying down here at the bottom. But if I want to edit the settings of an actual appliance, the host name, the IP address, the fully qualified name, the email settings, do I want to enable email reporting? You bet I do. I'm going to send a test email. I'm going to send it to myself to make sure I get it. And I'll bring that up over here to make sure I got it. I did get it. So then I'm going to go ahead and add in my recipients, which in this case I can go ahead and put in my Tom at Unitrends address, and I'm going to go ahead and get myself all three different types of reports. The system report, any jobs report and summaries, and any direct failures, of course, as well too. So I'm going to go ahead and add myself in as that recipient. Then I'm going to go ahead and save that record to make sure I save those changes. You'll notice that screen went away. I do have more settings to configure in here. So now I'm going to go through the users. You'll notice I already created my own super user account in this appliance. I recommend you do the same thing in your appliances. Create your own super user. There's also different user accounts you learn through the administrator guide for monitor, manage, administrator, and the super user. You can tie to AD, but we don't recommend it. Not recommended and not supported in the new interface. You're going to create and manage your accounts right through the user interface here. You can also create your own connection to your own NTP server. I'm using the default CentOS pools here on this appliance, but if you have your own internal NTP server that all your other servers are using, you can point your appliance to that same NTP server so they're all time consistent across the same group. Very important when you talk about backups. You can also modify the license from inside of here. Very important to know how to get inside of here for virtual appliances. Physical appliances, once again, they come pre-licensed, so you really don't mess with those unless you upgrade something through support and through sales. They may tell you to modify it. But the virtual licenses, you may upgrade these licenses through support often. You may have to come in here and enter the feature string in the license key. That's what they're going to email to you. They may ask you to put in a date as well too. So you're going to check the license that's emailed to you, and you're going to come in and say add license info. And it may give you I know it's going to give you a license key and a feature string. Those two are required. And if you're on a trial or an NFR license, it may give you a date to renew that. I know the trial does for sure. Some NFRs do and some don't. So check that out. You'll also notice the license level. I'm licensed for enterprise in here. Once again, check with our product and our sales team and our license levels that are currently out there as well too, from the free all the way up to the enterprise levels. Once again, you've got your backup copy tab out here. Once again, on our target, we're going to enable our target appliance as our backup copy target. We're going to go ahead and enable that over here eventually. And I'm not going to do it right now. I'm going to save it for the backup copy hot target module. Then out here, the advanced, I don't need to save those. If you want to enable encryption, here's where you enable the encryption, the passphrase. Once again, do not lose your passphrase. Unitrends cannot recover any backups if you do not have any passphrases. Very important to make sure you do not lose any of those passphrases. To change your OS console password, once again, go out to your appliance. Easiest way to do it is to log in to your appliance once again as F1 or F2, depends on where you're at. And you're going to log in as the root account. And you're going to log in with Unitrends 1 lowercase u for the first time. And you're going to type PASSWD, PassWD. That's going to prompt you to change your password. There we go. That's going to prompt you to change your password. That OS password is different than the user security password. That OS password is different than the user security password for this root account here. If I want to change that password here, that's the root account that I'm using to log into the web. You want to make sure you change that from Unitrends 1 default as well too. Make sure you're not using any default Unitrends passwords for the root account here or for the root account at the console, the OS level here. Type PassWD at the console is the easiest way to change that at a physical appliance level and virtual level. Drop out here to the console, log in with the current password, and type PassWD to reset that whenever you want to at the OS level. Once again, that's the OS password. Make sure you log out of that account once you're done. Once again, don't leave any accounts logged in to your console before you press Alt F2 or Alt F1 to get back. So we've got our appliances up then. Once you kind of go through that little mini checklist of securing the appliance, making sure your storage is right, you also want to make sure you update the appliance as well. So you want to check for updates. Make sure you have FTP port open on port 21 from the appliance to the internet. My appliance is all the way up to date already. So you can see here it's all the way up to date. Right? Some appliances require reboots. The appliance updates now do update the agents from the interface. The updates here, when you check for updates and you say yes, run the updates, it is going to update your agents through that same process. It's pretty cool. There's also now, you'll see it in the next module, we're really going to start going into protected assets and how do we register those once again. But you can update the agents from inside of here as well too, which is pretty cool. All right, so we're going to go over that in the next module. That's really what's left. Once your appliances are up and they're configured and they're updated, now you can go ahead and start registering all of your assets, tie to your virtual hosts, tie to your physical servers, tie to your storage shares, whatever you're going to protect, your databases through agents, your applications through agents. Then you can start writing backup jobs, starting to protect all these assets, making sure your recovery points are created correctly. We're going to show you how to go into all those in future modules here as well too. Then you're ready to start registering your assets.